how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, my love?
I'm great, friend. I'm great. So,
We are rested. We have vacation, all of
yeah,
that good stuff.
yes, we did. We went on vacation. Um,
Together.
El Teddy tried to drown me in the ocean.
Right.
That is my version
Okay.
of the story. That's my version of the story, and I'm sticking to it.
We'll let that sit there.
That you tried to drown me in Lake Minnetonka.
There's no Lake Minnetonka in Turks and Caicos. What are we talking about? In the Atlantic Ocean? In the Caribbean
Down to
Sea?
the Turks and Caicos. And if
In
I'm
the
being
Caribbean
fair,
Sea?
if I'm being fair, El Teddy wanted to do a show while we were there, and I just couldn't get it. I was in vacation mode, y'all. I just couldn't do it. So just so y'all know, you can blame me because El Teddy was like, "Oh, we want to do a teacher project. We're together. We can do a show together. We'll be sitting right
I
next to
did.
each other." He did. I'm being honest, and y'all, I was just on vacation mode. Can I be honest about something? Can I just be honest? Can I be honest? I don't think I was sober long enough
She wasn't.
to do a show.
She wasn't.
I would probably have been the one having the sugar spike. Me and Jack Daniels would have been the ones having the moment. But neither here nor there, you guys. We are back. We had a great vacation. It was everything I wanted it to be. And I was so happy that some of my closest friends were with me, including El Teddy, because contrary to popular belief, we are friends in real life. That's my little bro in real life. And you can make friends on YouTube because that is where I met him. So, with that being said, let's get into the things of the things. You guys, we are, as much as it pains me to say what I'm getting ready to say, we are gearing up for another school year. Tomorrow is August the 1st. I'm already seeing back to school pictures going up and down my timeline in different parts of the
Child, some of my friends
country. Back to
report back
school.
next week. They report back next week. Some of my friends
Yeah,
who are
yeah. I report
administrators.
back. I have 3 more weeks. And I have found out some very interesting news. I told you offline some changes that were made at my school location that I'm a little nervous isn't the word, but if you've been in education long enough, you know that over any summer a lot of changes are made and some are more concerning than others. So yeah, so I don't know what I'm walking into in 3 weeks, but it's going to be what it's going to be. Please be on the lookout, you guys. I have decided that on my main channel, I am going to create a wish list for donations. There are very few items that I actually need for my classroom because we don't really use a lot of pen and paper and a lot of the basic supplies that we used to use. We don't use as much of anymore because, post pandemic, the kids use their computers the majority of the time. So there isn't a lot that I need, but I am going to create a wish list and I will make donations to other educators that I know are in need, like that are in the elementary school or middle school that they do need more of those supplies. So please be on the lookout on our community wall. I will post the link. I will also post it in my when I go live on my main channel. So anyway, that's all that being said. Any more business you want to cover, El Teddy, before we dig into the nonsense and the foolery?
If you're in the St. Louis area, please make sure you go out and vote next week. My girl Corey Bush needs y'all.
Okay. Please make sure you go out and vote next week. And if you are, we do have some subscribers over here that have not crossed over. Or if you're listening on Apple Music, shout out to my girl who listens to us on Apple Music, who always sends me a text after I upload a new episode and tells me how much she enjoys the show and how great she thinks we are together. So shout out, you know who you are. Shout out to my girl.
Shout out to her. Hey, beautiful.
Yes, she texts me every time. She was like, "Oh my gosh," she was like, "That was a great episode," and she was like, "You guys have such great chemistry," and she's listening, so she's hearing the banter. So she really enjoys our show, and she's an educator that I've worked with, really great educator that I've worked with, and so she enjoys the show. But if you guys are listening, if you, I know that this whole election season has been energized in the last 2 weeks. So if you are one of those people that are, make sure that you are subscribed to El Teddy 27. He is breaking it down over there. He does his political commentary. I know today he's going to go live to break down the debacle that just happened at the National Association of Black Journalists panel.
Ciao, ciao.
So if you
Also,
are not subscribed, get
and
subscribed.
also, y'all are hearing this first. I'm starting next week. I'm going to have a political commentary panel with some other
All right.
surprise people that will be on there
Okay.
starting next week, Tuesday. So there will be a weekly politics panel with some special guests, and people will be there with us
And
weekly.
we are
So,
excited. I've been telling him to do this for a long time, so we are excited about that. Um anyway, moving on. Yeah, I think
but
those are
y'all are the
our
first to
announcements.
hear it.
Yeah,
That's
so
all the
listen,
announcement.
look at y'all getting exclusive information. So if you are interested in politics and getting it the breakdown of all the things, please come through. Tracy is here, the mod extraordinaire. Can you drop LTD's link? Because again, I know there are people, most of y'all are, are subscribed already, but please make sure you guys get subscribed. And he may even invite me to come over a time or two. I don't know. I haven't been invited yet, but maybe, maybe he'll invite me. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway,
If she act right, y'all. If she act right.
look if I act right. Anyway, with that being said, y'all, let's go ahead and get into it. So, where do you want to start? I mean, we have California on the docket today. We have Virginia on the docket.
Let's
We
do that
have
one. The first one I sent
actually
you. Since this is the oldest
the one you sent me
one.
the other day, earlier this week.
Yes, that's the oldest
Okay.
one. Let's do that one.
You guys, my computer is lagging today, so I'm going to just read it from my phone. If you guys don't mind, I normally share the link. I will drop the link in the chat, but my phone, my computer is acting real funky, and I don't want to, add
You
more
want me
to
to
it.
read them if that's easier?
Well, no, I can read it from my phone.
Okay.
It's just I normally share the article so people can read along, but y'all will be all right. So this is from Virginia, from Glenn Youngkin. That's the one you
Yo
talking about.
boy, yo boy.
He ain't mine. He might live close to me, but he don't belong to me. He don't belong to me. Listen, if he belonged to me, then your boy down in Florida belonged to you. With that being said, so this is coming from the Advocate, you guys. This is dated July the 27th of 2024. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican known for his anti-trans school policies, has appointed Meg Bryce, daughter of the late U.S. Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia, to the Virginia Board of Education. Bryce, an educator in psychology who critics argue aligns with the mindset of Moms for Liberty, is now the eighth member of Youngkin has appointed to the 9-member board. So he has put, okay, so this is what we're talking about, you guys. When we say local elections matter. So Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, has now, in the 2 years that he's been governor, has now replaced or appointed 8 out of the 9 members of the state of Virginia school board. That is very important. Did you see an article? I'm sorry, y'all, sidebar. Article I read earlier this week that said that Virginia is like ranked in the top 5 schools in the country, states. He's like in the top 5 states.
I think
Very
Florida's
interesting.
number one.
Now you know that's a lie.
I'm telling you, it's
No,
based
no,
on
no,
a
no,
lot of
no.
the
I'm not saying
testing
no,
and
no, no. I'm not saying
standardized
that
scores. Oh,
I'm not saying that the
mhm.
ranking is I'm not saying that I'm saying anyway, moving on. Based on whatever criteria they use, child. We can
They
we
moved
can
the
make
goalpost.
criteria. Yeah, we can make criteria be whatever we want it to be. Okay. Moms for Liberty, a group that supports book bans and hostile toward the LGBTQ youth, has been designated as an anti-government extremist group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Bryce, who holds a PhD in cognitive science from the University of Virginia, teaches psychology. Her decision to remove her children from public schools during COVID-19 pandemic has been a point of contention. Bryce cited her lack of confidence in the school's administration as the reason she withdrew her kids from the school. Bryce previously ran for an at-large seat on the Albemarle County School Board, focusing her campaign on transparency, raising standards, and restoring what she termed common sense to the school district. Despite not being a Republican candidate, her campaign found support among conservative voters. She ultimately lost to Democrat Allison Spillman, who pointed at Bryce as favoring book bans and withholding parts of history from students. Bryce received only 37% of the vote. During a candidate forum hosted by the Albemarle Charlottesville NAACP, Bryce remarked on systemic racism, suggesting there should be room for disagreement on its existence. Hmm. Okay. She also addressed the vandalism of her campaign signs with her father's name, expressing frustration at being reduced to a caricature based on her family ties. Reaction to Bryce's appointment have been polarized. According to ABC News, Youngkin spokesperson Christine Martinez lauded her qualifications and commitment in education, noting her advocacy for student-centered policies and common sense as vital for Virginia's education system. The Board of Education develops curriculum and policy measures for Virginia's public schools. However, many Democrats and education advocates have voiced strong objections. Delegate Katrina Callison labeled Bryce as a failed Moms for Liberty candidate. Callison wrote on social media, "You know what's easier to win than an Albemarle County School Board seat? An unearned appointment to the State Board of Education from Governor Youngkin. Today starts Bryce's term on the board, and while I am disappointed, I'm not shocked that the governor would rather appoint a failed Moms for Liberty candidate over someone that has a record of support for public education." Yeah, the fact that she took her kids out of public school is so interesting, but she's gonna be on the board for the okay. Um, well, I'm almost done. James Furterman, president of the Virginia Education Association, described the appointment as a politically motivated decision that could harm LGBTQ plus students. Bryce's appointment is framed by recent legal battles over education policies in Virginia. A York County judge recently dismissed a lawsuit challenging Governor Youngkin's Department of Education model policies affecting transgender students. Many districts in Virginia have rejected Youngkin's controversial model policies on ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students and parents in Virginia's public schools for transgender students. The policies mandate that students use bathrooms and locker rooms corresponding to their assigned sex at birth and require parental permission for any student wishing to use different name or pronoun at school. Youngkin has faced criticism for these policies, which advocates say discriminate against transgender students. Okay, what you got, boo?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, what he wants to do, and I can't say that I blame him, but this is what politicians do. They want to be able to not just assert their ideologies while they're in office, but they want these things to have lingering and lasting effects so that their stamp on that state is far reaching. And the thing about it is here we have someone who could not win in a local election, vehemently rejected by the constituents within the great Commonwealth of Virginia, summarily told, we don't want you having anything to do with decisions about education in our great Commonwealth. But yet the governor in one fell swoop can say, well, screw you. Y'all don't want her having nothing to do with what y'all got going on a local level. Well, I'll make her in charge of what's going on the state level. So now you can't get away from her. And we see what this is. Moms for Liberty candidates have failed all over the country. In some of the most red of red states and areas, they have lost elections because they're even too radical for even the some of the most conservative and staunch Republicans. And so when you have a governor that basically says, I'm still against your wishes, going to put them on the state board of education, what he's saying to you is, damn how you feel, damn your beliefs, damn how you think your children should how or damn what you think your children should be subject to. based on decisions made by these boards and things like that. I'm just going to do what I want to do anyway. And it's quite telling. It's quite telling, really be. So what that means is, because let's be clear, aren't these the same people, really be, who are asking for, school boards and state school districts to be subject to parents, and parents should have the final say in what goes on to the school? Aren't these those same people? And when the parents make their voice heard and say they don't want the Moms for Liberty people, the state then jumps in and says, well, damn what the parents want. We're just going to decide for you. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Let me say this. And I know for the people in the chat, for our scholars that are in the chat, we know you guys already get it, right? We are preaching to the choir with this. But I want, for anybody that's questioning or not quite understanding, let's compare this on a smaller scale. Let's compare this to Donald Trump being able to stack the Supreme Court. Long after Donald Trump is gone, we still see the effects of what he was able to do. And even though school boards are not lifetime appointments in most areas, like we see the Supreme Court, it does not matter. You still have this long-term effect, right? And with these policies being so extreme, it can have long-term effects on our students. We are already in a situation, and we've had this conversation many times before, you guys, where our children that are a part of the LGBTQIA community, and in a lot of cases, they're still trying to figure it out. And the last thing they need is to be further bullied by the adults that they're around all day, every day. And I'm just going to say bullied, because for teachers like myself or like El Teddy, that would not take advantage of these policies, you have other teachers who are on the other end of the spectrum that absolutely will. So book banning, we want to debate whether there's systemic racism. I'm sorry, there's no debate. There's no debate there. How are we debating systemic racism? The fact that she pulled her own kids out of public school, but now she wants to she wants to create policy and enact policy that affects kids in public school. Like, I'm sorry, what?
I feel like if you're a governor, a state official on a state board of education, you should be forced to have your kids in public schools if you're going to be making laws and enacting policies that affect public schools. That's just how I feel. I'm sorry to interject. I'm
I
sorry.
agree. No, I agree with you 100%. That's just like Eleanor Holmes Norton, and I'm sure this is the case in a lot of places. But Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's a shadow Republican for the District of Columbia, you have to live in D.C. to work in her office, and she gives you a certain amount of time. A friend of mine worked for her, and he lived in Virginia, and he ultimately had to quit his job because he could not, because he was low level, entry level. He couldn't afford to live in DC, and he couldn't find a roommate. And he ultimately had to quit his job because her policy was, listen, how can you have to live here. You have to be a part of the city. And I know the mayor of DC has a policy very similar. You have to live in DC to work for the government. And I think it's the same thing. Like, how are you putting in policy for public school, yet you pulled your kids out of public school? I don't make no sense to me. Sorry, that should just be basic. I agree with you. I think that should just be basic. Tracy brings up a very valid point. She said it's hard to get people off of school boards because people don't vote in those elections. Well, she said when they should. But you're right. Those are those local elections that a lot of people, especially if it's not a presidential election year. If it's on
Exactly.
an off year, those people don't show up to vote. Half
A
the
lot
people
of
don't even
times, really be, it's not even during the midterm election years. It's on like an odd year. You understand what I'm saying? Where it's not even like a midterm
right.
election,
I
and
understand.
so you're really up against it.
But that's my point. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, y'all, and again, when I say y'all, I ain't talking about y'all, but y'all don't show up for those elections because really most people only, and we know how many people don't even show up to vote in the presidential election. So yeah. And for all those people that talk about the electoral college, oh Lord, Abby, I'm sorry. Did you just get Abby's text?
Mm-mm.
Um,
Oh God. Okay. Lord.
Okay, congratulations, girl. Congratulations. But
Hmm.
but with that being said, a lot of people probably couldn't even tell you who their school board member is for their county, their district, their neighborhood. They don't know. Anyway.
But yeah, I saw that and I was like, just be prepared. This is why, this is exactly why it makes sense for all of these people that are like, oh, well, we think there needs to be some balance. And, even though there's a Democratic legislature, there needs to be some balance. So that's why I voted for Republican governor. I hear this all the time, really, B. And then what you end up having happen is stuff like this.
Yeah. So again, if you are in the state of Virginia, you need to be on high alert and keep your head on a swivel. What?
Wait, what?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we get
What?
girl, girl. Um, ma'am, you have an article to read.
I'm sorry.
You have an
Wait a
article to read.
minute. I need a second. The fuck? Okay, I'm sorry. Y'all, I apologize. My apologies. Okay, with that being said, let's get into the next. Where you want to go next? North Carolina,
North
California? What's the
Carolina.
other
We go
state?
to North Carolina. Let's go to North Carolina. Cause the other two kind of go hand in hand.
Wow. Okay. All right. 2023 though. Okay. All right. North Carolina. Let's go. Whew. Lord, now my phone is taking forever to load. Okay, here we go. This is coming from the News and Observer, dated July the 31st. Oh shoot! You have it. I need a subscription.
Oh, it won't let you do it without a subscription.
No, can you get
Hold
in?
on, let me see. Let me see. Hold on. Hold on. Mm-mm. It's giving me subscription too. I guess we'll cancel that.
Well,
That was
I'm
a
gonna give
good
y'all
one.
the headline, and then you guys can go and do your own research into it. I'll tell you what the headline was, and we apologize. Listen, they want us to always buy these subscriptions, child. My apologies, but this is out of North Carolina, and it is dealing with students. Nearly 1 out of 4 North Carolina students don't attend traditional public schools, and again, it's probably more micro schools and homeschooling and what's some other schools, El Teddy?
Charter.
That's it. Couldn't get it out. Charter school. So
Can I can I
we'll
say this?
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just
This
gonna
is
say
not.
we'll see if we can try to get that information from another source, but we'll just keep on moving for now.
Can I say one of the things that goes unsaid, and I'm fair. I'm fair. I have to talk good about the people who I don't like sometimes, and bad about the people who I do like sometimes. One of the things about the Obama presidency that I was not okay with, that doesn't get talked about, is his acceptance and open-throated support for charter schools. There was a lot of explosion of charter schools that happened during his administration. If you remember, really, B, teachers unions were at his throat, especially during that 2012 election. Because of it, they ended up bending the knee and giving their endorsements to him. But I vividly remember that being a subject, a sore spot for the Obama presidency. And it doesn't get talked about a lot, but the explosion of the charter school really happened in the 8 years of the Obama presidency, if we're being honest.
Um, Actually, actually, I had this conversation the other day on my channel. I told people that I had to think long and hard about voting for Obama, and that is exactly why. Like, he didn't automatically get my vote because his stance on charter education directly affected what I did, and it actually did. Y'all know I don't like calling that lady name, but he endorsed Michelle Reed. He supported Michelle Reed
Yo,
and her
girl.
policies, and that directly affected me. But the problem
Hmm.
was, hell, John McCain felt the same way. Remember, him and John McCain both
Hmm.
endorsed her. So it was like, well, I mean, but in the primary with him and Hillary Clinton had a very different policy on education and what she wanted to do with education, and it did not include the aggressive pushing of charter schools. And I'm going to be honest and tell y'all, it really came down to that, and I really had to think long and hard because that's my bread and butter. Like, I love you, Barack, but
Hmm.
that's my bread and butter, bruh.
I vividly remember
So
in '08, I did not vote for Barack in the primary. I voted for Hillary in the primary. I vividly remember that. I always tell the story. He did not get my vote in Florida's primary. I remember that wholeheartedly. He got my vote in the general, but in the primary, I voted for Hillary. I
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah. Um,
But that's just to add some of our commentary to what the article was about. It basically said pretty much one in every four students in North Carolina at this point are not in what we consider to be traditional public schools. And that's quite alarming because if I'm a state governor for a state like North Carolina, you know what that means? I start to put less and less money of the state budget into public education so as to use those money for other things. And where are they going to go? Places we don't want them to go, police departments and things like that, putting money in large corporations and giving them tax write-offs as they come into your state, and other policies that just don't help. So we're talking, if we see this trend, if North Carolina becomes the standard bearer for something like this, states across the South are going to follow the blueprint. They do this all of the time. We talked about the state of Tennessee that talked about rejecting federal dollars for public education so that they could do whatever they wanted to do. So this certainly, you talking, we're already at at the point where a quarter of one in every four students are not in. That's a large percentage, really. When I saw that number, it was quite alarming to me. It was 24%. That's a large number, really be large. You couldn't have quoted that to me and I would have believed it.
yeah, and Tracy said that charter schools in her area are expensive. Charter schools should be free. I ain't never heard of a charter school where you had to pay tuition. I don't know. I've never heard of that before. Okay. Outside of you are? Oh.
Hmm. I was taking
No,
I was taking a swig of water.
my computer keeps glitching over here, so it's like it's glitching. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to restart it when I get off of here. Um, but yeah, I mean that was part of the problem with charter schools, that they're using public money to fund them. So the fact that you have charter schools where people have to pay tuition, that's interesting to me. I've never heard that before. Um, who's charging for a charter school? Is it like high level? Like, I don't know. I've never heard of a charter school where you had to pay tuition. That's some new stuff to me. All right, where do you want to go next? You want to go to title was it Title
Let's go
9, or you want
Title
to go
Nine
to
and then California, because Title Nine feeds into the California. Hey, everybody
okay.
coming in.
All right, okay. Nobody loves me. Okay, sorry. All right, WGCU. This is dated July the 30th of 2024. Judge refuses to block Title IX rule on sex-based discrimination in education programs. Rejecting arguments. by Florida and three other states, a federal judge today refused to grant a preliminary injunction against a new federal rule about sex based discrimination in education programs. U.S. Judge Anne-Marie Carney Axon issued a 122-page decision that rejected a request by Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and four other plaintiffs to block the rule which deals with Title IX, a landmark 1972 law that bars discrimination in education programs based on sex. The states and the other plaintiffs filed the lawsuit in spring, alleging in part that the Biden administration overstepped its legal authority in extending Title IX regulations to apply to discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. But Axon, who is based in Alabama, said the plaintiffs had not provided adequate arguments to obtain a preliminary injunction. Plaintiffs must, among other things, establish a substantial likelihood of success on the claims advanced in their complaint to obtain a preliminary injunction from this court. Roe Axon, who was nominated to the federal bench by former President Donald Trump. That's important, so Donald Trump in the play. They failed to sustain the burden. Among other things, Axon wrote that the plaintiffs had not adequately backed up their claims that the Biden administration's actions were arbitrary and capricious. The court highlights that at later stages in these proceedings, more carefully developed legal arguments and the benefit of a fuller evidentiary record yield a different result. But the court declines to exercise its discretion to grant the extraordinary relief plaintiffs have requested. The states and other plaintiffs immediately filed a notice of appeal to the decision in the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The law contends that the rule could affect issues such as which bathrooms that transgender students can use in schools. And announcing the rule this spring, the U.S. Department of Education said the measure will fully effectuate the Title IX's promise that no person experiences sex discrimination in federally funded education. The rule has also drawn legal challenges in other parts of the country. So the good news is this is a small win. And I say small because y'all know they're going to keep going till they get to the Supreme Court. And we know what the Supreme Court,
Well, it's already going to get there, really, be because
Oh, I agree.
now this is the 11th Circuit, which is the southeastern part of the United States. So that's why you heard those states: Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina. However, that's the 11th Circuit. The 5th Circuit, where democracy goes to die, is Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma area. And they have also, I think we either on my channel or on this channel in a previous live talked about the injunctions that was granted within the 5th Circuit, where democracy goes to die. So this is already being contested in the other circuits. So the fact that it is already being adjudicated in multiple circuits almost pretty much guarantees that it's going to get to the Supreme Court. The question being which particular case will get there first, because we had this in the lead up to Roe v. Wade. We had in the Dobbs decision, the reason Roe v. Wade got dismissed was because the case that got to the Supreme Court first was one that was easier. That was the one with the I think that was the one with the 15-week ban that they wanted, or the 15 or 12-week ban that was much more easier to get through and got through faster than the one that was more draconian with a 6-week ban. And so which led way to the Dobbs decision that got rid of abortion. So in the same way, we have these multiple cases in multiple circuits that are making its way up the judicial ladder. And I don't see any way that the Supreme Court doesn't strike down the federal law that they're trying to add, or the addition or addendum to Title IX. I don't see any way that it doesn't get stricken down, because the Supreme Court has already said they're about that life. Now, this, like you said, this is a small victory on a large war that it doesn't appear that that's going to win. unless something happens at the Supreme Court level.
Absolutely.
Basically, this, I mean, this is all about, to get into the a little bit of the weeds of what this is about. This is about protecting the rights of transgender students. This is about, also a part of this is protecting rights of pregnant women. There's a part of this that protects the rights of pregnant women as well. That's lumped into this. That could get rejected along with, and this is not just on the K through 12 level. This is also on the collegiate level. So we're talking all of that mixed into one with this. And while this is a victory in the 11th Circuit, the 11th Circuit is still one that tries to follow, you know, judicial precedent and try to rightly divide the laws. The Fifth Circuit just doesn't give a damn. And it's already there at the Fifth Circuit.
Agreed. Agreed. Oh man. Well, Title IX up until now, it mainly focused on sports. To answer Abby's question, she said, "So this would mean having unisex bathrooms to accommodate, or is just in reference to sports?" Up until recently, whenever you heard Title IX, you sort of automatically thought of sports. However, yeah, it has spilled over into, like El Teddy just said, the transgender question, with when we're dealing with this far right agenda, limiting LGBTQIA rights and things of that nature. So yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I
And
never even thought of it from that perspective. I always thought of it from a Title IX point of view, but recently it's become more focused on the transgender agenda, you know.
and specifically, that's because the language of Title IX doesn't specifically say sports. It talks about
Right,
equality within schools, having to be equal no matter
right,
what the sex, gender of that person is. It also
right,
speaks in certain parts to race and ethnicity. And so the area or arena where you saw that most prevalent was in sports. That was what
right.
got the federal courts, I mean the federal law to come into place, because girls and women said, hey, we need to have access to these sports and things like that too, and we need equity in terms of funds and resources allocated to what we want to do as well. And that's what birthed Title IX. But it is far reaching, even like really B said, beyond sports, and it does affect restroom, and it affects the ability to have equality with regard to the education that is offered to students at those respective schools. And so
Right.
you would think that this would be an easy win in saying that, well, all students should have equal rights to having the same and fair ability to receive an education, and have the same chances of having worthwhile education offered to them, and all of the things that go along with that. And now we see we're in the year of our Lord 2024, where that's not the case, and they're saying we don't give a damn about y'all and y'all equality here.
Exactly.
That's why we have DEI offices being shut down and closed all over the country.
Basically. Yeah.
Oh, really? Be
Yep.
wait till I get to that part of the live today where the lady asked him about DEI, and she told him what it was. He said, "I'm waiting for you to give me the definition," and she was like, "I just told you." Girl, I'm gonna have fun breaking this down today. It was a whole mess today, really. A mess. It was a mess. We'll be breaking that down today on my channel at 5 o'clock. A whole mess.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess. All right. The last article we have for you guys today is coming out of state of California. California is being sued. Did you know California was being sued?
Hmm. I saw this coming.
Yeah. So California, oh, I know. Oh, you knew they was about to get Newsom. You knew they was about to get good old
Hmm.
Gavin.
Hmm.
So Southern California School District sues Governor Newsom over new transgender law. A Southern California, and this is coming out of the Associated Press, July the 17th. A Southern California school district involved in an ongoing legal battle with the state over the district's gender identity policy sued Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom Tuesday over a new law banning districts from requiring that parents be notified of their child's gender identification change. The Chino Valley Unified School District and a handful of parents argued the law violates the rights of parents protected under the U.S. Constitution. Oh, that was it. That was a quick article. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me keep going. Let me look. Sometimes. Oh, there it is. Sometimes they have the ads and they'll say continue reading. My bad. School officials do not have the right to keep secrets from parents, but parents do have a constitutional right to know what their minor children are doing at school. Emily Ray, a lawyer representing the district, said in a statement. But Newsom spokesperson Izzy Gardon called the lawsuit deeply unserious, not deeply unserious, and said the new law preserves the child-parent relationship. California law ensures minors can't legally change their name or gender without parental consent, and parents continue to have guaranteed and full access to their students' educational records consent with federal law. Gardon said in an email, "We're confident the state will swiftly prevail in this case." Attorney General Rob Bonta sued Chino Valley Unified over a rule its board approved last year requiring school staff to notify parents if their children change their gender identification or pronouns. Bonita said that the law discriminated against gender nonconforming students. A judge halted the policy while the case plays out, and the district later updated the rule to broadly require parents to be notified if their child asks to make any changes to their student records. Okay, that's two different things, but I'm gonna keep reading. That's what they just said is two different things, but okay. Newsom signed the first in the nation law Monday, which bans districts from requiring school staff to disclose a student's gender identity or sexual orientation to any other person without the child's permission, with some exceptions. It also requires the State Department of Education to develop resources for families of LGBTQ students in grades 7 through high school. The law will take effect in January. Proponents of the ban say it will help protect transgender and gender nonconforming students who live in unwelcoming households. This critical legislation strengthens protections for LGBTQ plus youth against forced outing policies, provides resources for parents and families of LGBTQ plus students to support them as they have conversations on their terms, and create critical safeguards to prevent retaliation against teachers and school staff who foster safe and supportive school environment for all students. Tony Hine, executive director of the LGBTQ advocacy group Equality California, said in a statement. But some conservative groups, including the California Family Council, said the law violates parents' rights. This bill undermines their fundamental role and places boys and girls in potential jeopardy, Jonathan Keller, the council's president, said in a statement. Moms and dads have both a constitutional and divine mandate to guide and protect their kids. And AB 1955, I'm sorry, I always fuck up that word. Sorry, violates
egregiously.
I always screw up that word. I'm sorry. I always want to say erroneous, and I know it's not erroneous. I'm sorry.
Egregiously.
That word is just, how you have some words that just be like,
My word is rural. RURAL. Yeah. That's my word.
I know the word, but in my mind, I always want to say erroneous, and I know it's not erroneous. Anyway, sorry, y'all. Billionaire Elon Musk said he would move the headquarters of SpaceX and the social media platform X to Texas from California, in part because the new law. Tesla, where Musk is CEO, moved its headquarters from Austin to Palo Alto, California in 2021. The new law comes after several school districts in California passed policies requiring that parents be notified if a child requests to change their gender identification. That led to pushback by Democratic state officials who say students have a right to privacy. Nationwide lawmakers, families, and advocates have been debating the rights of local school districts, parents, and LGBTQ plus students. At least 6 states have requirements that schools notify parents when minors disclose that they are transgender or asked to be referred to with a different pronoun, according to the Associated Press reporting. Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, Virginia asked school boards to adopt similar policy, but it does not have a law. Arizona and Idaho also require schools to provide certain information to parents but do not specify gender expression or sexual orientation. In New Jersey, Attorney General Matt Plotkin last year sued four school districts claiming their policies violate an anti discrimination law that allows gender expression information to be shared with a student's family only with their permission or if there is a risk to the student's health and safety. Conservative groups, including the Specific Justice Institute, the Goldwater Institute, and Family Policy Alliance, have attempted to intervene in the lawsuit. States have also weighed on lawsuits over how local school districts have handled transgender students. Last year, for instance, 23 Republican state attorneys general filed a brief to support the Chico, California mother who claimed that school officials allowed her child to socially transition without her permission. 16 Democratic attorney generals filed a brief on the other side.
Really, be this is there's a lot here. This is not a black and white and cut and dry issue at all. There's a lot going on here. Um, and I think a lot of times people look at California as this bastion of progressive liberalism,
Mm,
and that's
mhm,
just not what California is made up of. California
mhm,
has a whole lot of staunchly conservative and Republican areas. A lot of them. Why do you think the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, was from the great state of California? Or what's my guy? I can't even think of the guy's name right now. Who's the Republican president? I used to call him Eddie Munster. Oh my God. Whatever. I can't think of his name. But he was also from California. Remember, he had that meeting with Donald Trump in one of the skiffs in the White House, and there was that whole thing. I can't remember his name. He's out of Congress now. But anyway, there are a lot of conservative areas in California. So I just want to start there. The part that makes this such a divided issue where you really have to thread the needle, and I think that Governor Newsom should have been a little more nuanced with this and really tried to thread the needle with this, is you're talking about keeping information from parents about their child. That's the conservative side of it, where people say, and even some people who are liberals say, I'm never for a situation where you could have information on my child that I don't have. However, there are instances where there could be harmful things done to that child, harm done to that child if the information is given out. Now, I don't necessarily like how the argument was placed, or how the law, when they sold the law, and even this article sells it, because they sell it as if this is basically more so a trans issue. However, really, you and I both know there's issues with just regular lesbian and gay students not wanting their parents to know what they got going on, because there could be a safety to life issue for that child in the home. So this is something that could affect all of those letters of the LGBTQ. And I think they're trying to center this around the trans community. And we know trans youths are a very polarizing topic of conversation right now, which makes it much more divisive when it's not just them. And really, there are so many gay and lesbian and bisexual students that their only place of refuge or safety is school, because they know if they go home and let that be known or come out, so to speak, there could be a safety to life issue where that child now finds themselves on the street trying to, find themselves a place to live and stay. And so I understand that part of it, but I do kind of understand a parent saying, you need to tell me if something's going on with my child, because my child is my responsibility, and that's my job as a parent, to take care of them. And if I don't take care of them, I'm going to get in legal issues with the state for that as well. So it's such a great area to me, really. Be and I'm a staunch advocate for all of my LGBTQ plus youth, but I also understand a parent saying, I'm you should not be able to withhold this from me. but sometimes there are situations we know really be where if I tell this parent that this child is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or even, God forbid, a trans student and wants to, or non-binary, God knows there could be, irreparable damage done to that child. I don't know, really be it's this is such a this is a hard conversation to me. I don't know. Maybe you feel different.
No, I'm as somebody who's, like you said, I'm still in the school, and as the person who is the faculty advisor for our Gay Straight Alliance. We don't call it that, but basically the Gay Straight Alliance. I have students who are a part of the club and do not want their parents to know, and it's a tightrope because, like you said, so it's a tightrope because, like you said, it's a case by case basis. Because in some situations, it's kids just not ready to have that conversation with their parents. But in some situations, it could be the difference between a child becoming homeless, or a child being abused. So sometimes it's just, hey, I haven't quite figured this out yet, and I'm not ready to have that conversation. But let me say this too. When I was reading that article and I said we're talking about two different things, because we're talking about students having the right to change their official school records versus students just asking teachers, "Hey, I know that that you have Jane, but can you call me Joe?" Or, "I know that I'm physically a female, but my pronoun is they, or my pronoun is he." That is a different conversation than a child having the right to change their school records. And as I was reading that article, it was conflating those two things because those are two
Well,
very different things.
what happened was that school district involved. What they did was they first said you had to tell a parent if they just wanted you to call them something different, or if you knew that a child was kind of trans or non-binary in school and the
Right,
parent didn't know, or if the child, that was the rule at first. And then when they got pushback from the state on it,
right,
they then changed the rule and said that, well, a parent had to now be informed if they decided to change their school record. So that's
right.
how
But they can't.
that
But that's what I'm
that happened.
saying. But, but that's what I'm saying. This is an example, in my opinion. And if you guys can email me, anybody listening, if you're not in the chat and you're listening to this on the replay, you can email me if I'm wrong. But from my understanding, federal law is already in place that minors, unless they are emancipated, they cannot change their school records. They don't have that ability.
They don't.
I know in my district, we've had that conversation to say, hey, if a kid tells you they want to be called Joe instead of Jane, that is up to your discretion. But we can't change anything in our in the system that we use. Now,
Correct.
back in the day when we just had a roll book and we could just kind of write a name over it, but everything is in the computer. So that's what I'm saying. Like, some of these laws are laws based on fear and not based on fact. Federal law already says that a child can't officially change their school. That's federal. So I don't even understand passing laws saying kids can't do what we already know kids can't do. Now you're passing a law saying that it's mandated that a teacher call a parent and tell a parent if a student says, "Hey, I know my name is Jane, but call me Joe." That's a different conversation, you know. But it just
And
seems weird to me that we're wasting court time on something that is already settled.
well, I think what they wanted was an acquiesce to, but it a couple things happened here. The district wanted anything dealing with that child to be reported to the parent. The state
Right.
said nope. The district then said, well, if there's a change of school records that's requested, that needs to be informed of the parents. The state then came back and Gavin Newsom passed a law that went to the first thing that the school district tried to make a rule on, which was the school doesn't have to tell you, even the parent, even if the child wants to um um change their pronouns or change the name that they want to be called, not in the system, because like you said, there are things already in place about changing school records in the school system. But the real contention here is not changing the thing in the school system. The real contention is parents wanting to be informed if and when that child either starts to transition, says they're transitioning. We know in high schools we have a lot of kids that leave home looking one way and come to school change and look a whole different way. And there's a lot of that involved there. Um and I think that's a lot of, they just want to be able to, there are parents that want to be able to know what's going on so that they can handle whatever they feel they need to handle in the house.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about it. I just, and I've had this, I've said this a million times before. That's one of the things I always do in my classroom. I mean, I've always asked students, "Hey, do you have a nickname? Do you have and I never thought of it from an LGBTQ perspective until it became an issue, right? I always ask my students, "Hey, do you have a nickname?" And as long as it was appropriate, you know what I mean? As long as it wasn't something crazy, I've called my students whatever their neighborhood nickname is, what their family calls them by their middle name instead of their first name. Because at the end of the day, the roll book is still going to be the roll book. The grade, you know what I mean? That's not changing. So if you were more comfortable with me calling you Renee rather than calling you Shelly, okay, girl, I'll call you Renee. It's no big deal to me. And so I never thought of it as a big deal if a student said, "Hey, my pronoun is they." And I've had students say that to me. Okay, let me wrap my brain around that. I will do my best. If I ever slip up, charge it to my head and not my heart. It never occurred to me to pick up the phone and call a parent and be like, "Well,
But
they said
you
they
have
wanted
some of those
to say."
hard line teachers that
I
do
know.
and will call a parent. I've seen it. Baby, I
I
have
know.
seen
Oh,
it.
I work with
Oh, I
some.
know.
Let's be
That's
and
what
that's
I know. You know, really be
yeah,
baby. Don't
exactly.
no your thing
Exactly.
say such and such. That's what I'm gonna call you, and I ain't gonna change it. And then
Yeah.
we'll call your parent on it.
I told you we had a situation when I was an administrator where we had to out a girl. We didn't, and we told her we knew the situation was going to be bad, but she kept getting into fights at school, and she kept getting into fights at school over a girl. Like she was like by the third fight, we were like, listen, because listen, we can't keep not telling your mama the whole story, but we knew it would be a bad situation for her at home. She came from a very devout Muslim family, and we knew it would be a problem. But we literally had to tell her, listen, you got to tell your mama, because if you don't, we're going to have to. Because we've got to explain to your mama why you're being suspended. And it's not fair to the other person involved in this situation for us not to tell the whole story to your mother. We have to give her the whole story. So we were forced to out her, but we made her do it. But we were like, we can't not, like, you're getting into physical altercations at school over a girl that you're dating. Like, so I mean, these are things. So I understand there are situations. So I get the converse, like you said, El Teddy. I see it from both sides of the perspective, but the whole change in school records is just it's a red herring because it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Federal law dictates that a child cannot change their official school record without parental consent. And that's in any situation. Let's say a parent gets mad at their biological father and they want to change their last name. They can't walk into the records office and say, "Hey, my last name is not Jones anymore because my mother got married and I like my stepfather better." That's not how this works. So to make it seem like a kid can change their name because they are now identified as transgender, they can't do that. At least,
I'm a,
again, that's my understanding of the federal law. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me I'm wrong.
well, I could see, I could see this changing. Is that me echoing? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't hear an echo, so
Oh, but I could see this changing because I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Think about when you were in school, and even when I was in school, really be college, that is. Think about how PWIs handled grades and transcripts versus how HBCUs handle grades and transcripts. HBCUs sent the stuff right to your house. Your mom and daddy could call there and get that information. PWIs in orientation, they would tell your parents, "Hey, boo, you cannot call the registration office asking you for your child's grade. If your child does not choose to give you their grades, that's their prerogative. You cannot call us to get it from them." That's a conversation you got to have with between them. And the parent would be like, but I'm paying the tuition. And the school would be like, they're an adult. You could choose not to pay their tuition, but you will not be getting their grades. And
But that's
so, whereas
you know, but
HBCUs, a lot of, in most cases, would take the stance, no, we send it right to your house and your mom and daddy will get to know your grades.
that's what they
Um,
sent my grades. They sent my grades right to the address on record, and the address on record was my DC address. It was not my dorm room.
and
That
so, but I've
is where my
seen
grades
that
went.
change over the years with HBCUs. That stance has changed over the years with HBCUs, with privacy and stuff like that, with the students. And so, um, I could see where, with the country being so divided and this being so divisive, where there is a lot of safety to life issues with this, and there could be instances where, yeah, ma'am, you're gonna have to talk to your child. I can't tell you anything. I don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Belo says our LSW S our LCSWs, which are licensed social workers, typically staffed in public schools. If not, do you believe it's necessary? I do. So the answer to both questions is yes. I do. Are they? I'm sorry. The answer to your first question is: are they staffed? Here's the reality: in most public schools, they are not. I can't go. I can't say every district in every state. Now, is there usually a line item in the budget for one? Yep. But generally speaking, what ends up happening with the social workers is that they end up having 2 or 3 schools that they're responsible for. So very seldom do you see a dedicated social worker. Again, I can't say that's every school district. I'm just speaking in a general statement. But yes, there are line items for social workers at schools. Now, when I first started teaching, we had a dedicated social worker at our school. And then it went from, well, we had a dedicated social worker, but 2 days a week she was at another school. And then it went to, well, we are now sharing her with 3 other schools, and they just go from school to school based on need. And they generally start with what's in a child's IEP, and then they branch out from there. Is that pretty accurate from your experience, El Teddy?
My experience, yeah, it's pretty accurate. What they'll have is, uh, they'll have one for the feeder pattern. It's kind of like, you see in some schools, they're resource officers, where you may have one resource officer that's kind of housed and stationed at the high school, and then they go out as needed to the elementary or middle school as
Mhm.
needed. And it's kind of the same way with the social work, with the clinical social worker. They may have office hours or certain days, but they are certainly, pulled in a lot of different directions. They are, very, very understaffed. I should
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
where they're pulled in out, where they're really not able to really do the work that you'd like them to be able to do.
Or a lot of times principals start using them to do, especially in the elementary level, they use them for recess duty, or they use them for lunch duty. um and it takes a really strong person to be like, that is not my job. Like, I'm here to be. And so the answer, like I said, there should be, so the answer to your second question is, I absolutely think there should be a social worker and a child psychologist at every school. And I think they should be dedicated at every school. I had a situation with my nephew, where he had a total meltdown at school one day. He broke his brand new glasses, and he just knew. I told my sister, I said, you better be lucky they ain't get ready to call social services on you the way he had a meltdown. But my nephew wears glasses, and his first pair of glasses had a rubber frame, right? The frame was very flexible, and it was rubber, so he could, pull them, tug them, twist them, turn them, and they just didn't break. So he got last year, at the beginning of the school year, he got a pair of, big boy glasses, regular frames, and he pulled them like he was used to being able to pull his other frames, and he broke them. And they were brand new. He had just got them, and he had a total meltdown. I mean, he was unconsolable because he just knew he was going to get in trouble. He was going to, I don't know if he said he was going to get a spanking or not, but he was going to get in trouble. And they had to take him to the psychologist who was there to talk to him and calm him down. And so You never know what's going to happen. And it could be a small thing like that, or it could be a huge issue. So, yes, I do think there should be somebody dedicated in the schools because you just don't know what's going to happen. And it can't always wait for somebody to come from another school or for you to call a resource, you know? So, yeah. Bless his heart. I can only imagine how tore up he was. I love kids in glasses, and he's the cute child. He was so, oh my gosh. They called my sister. I told her, I said, you better be lucky they didn't call social services the way that boy cried, like he was gonna get a whooping. I said, you better be
Okay,
lucky.
have somebody knocking on the door.
Right. Talking about what he was so afraid he was gonna get a spanking. What are y'all doing here at the house? But it's just that they were brand new, you know, and he knew, and I'm sure my sister and my brother-in-law told him, be careful, all the things you tell a kid. So yeah, he was unconsolable. They said he cried so hard, he was unconsolable, honey. But anyway, you guys, make sure you guys head over to El Teddy's house in about 15 minutes. He is going to break down the debacle that was the National Association of Black Journalists. What was that? A
Interview.
Q&A interview Q&A with presidential nominee, that dude. Um, anything else you want to say, El Teddy?
I miss
Dr.
us
El
being
Teddy?
here on a weekly basis. We'll be here next week. We always talk about some good stuff, y'all. So
We'll be
yeah.
here next week, and then we're gonna take a week off because I'm gonna be on a cruise. But then after that, school starts, and we'll definitely be back on our regular basis, child. Listen, it's been summertime.
Okay. Child, I got a trip coming up with me and
Look
my
at Cajun. He's
LBs.
already trolling. Cajun is already trolling you.
Child, let me block him now.
All right, you guys. Thank y'all for being here once again. If you are new here, please subscribe. Tell us about it to all your friends. Share us out to all your friends. Um, and I will talk to you guys. Excuse me, I'm used to saying I. We will talk to you guys later. No, y'all have to go because it's not. It's not for another 15 minutes. So I didn't. Matter of fact, I don't even think I have that. I got to do that so I can set it up to do a redirect. So yeah, you guys have to go on over there. But I don't. You know what? I think I keep forgetting to set it up on this channel. I'm gonna do it right now so I won't forget. But I'll from now on I'll make sure I do that. Do the redirect. But let me set it up because I don't think I have it set up for redirect. I think that's the problem I had before when I was trying to do the redirect. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Oh my goodness.